Hi there, Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies. Today's video is about the elevator pitch. There's so much misunderstanding about this elevator pitch. So where did this come from? It came from the idea of people are busy. You've got very little time to get their attention. I think the bounce rate on most websites, you get about 3 seconds. They come in, spend 3 seconds, and then they bounce, they leave. So it's that idea. We have to get their attention quick or we're going to lose it forever. And the idea was, could you get into an elevator with somebody and the time you have in the elevator till they get off at their next floor, could you get them interested in your business? That's the idea of the elevator pitch. And that's an important skill to have. But there's two things to say about the elevator pitch. The first is that people tend to think of it as that the elevator pitch has to be a statement, when the elevator pitch could be a question. Somebody says, what do you do? And you might just say, well, do you know how a lot of these kind of people struggle with this issue? That's a question. It's not a statement. You're just, do you know how these kind of people, because if they say, no, I don't, there's nothing else to talk about. Well, it's if you say, do you know how a lot of salespeople really struggle with cold calling? And somebody says, no. What's a salesperson? What's a cold call? There's nothing else to say there. That's the stop of the conversation. They don't know what you're talking about. So number one, it can be a question. It could also be you sharing a question. You could say, I'm really passionate about this question of how do parents balance this, being too permissive, but also, or being too authoritarian. That seems a lot of parents struggle. That's something I really think about a lot. And you're not even saying what you do. I'm not saying that's what you should say, but that's something you could say. And somebody say, "Oh man, I'm interested in that too. Wow, and what's your deal? Do you work with people? Do you teach this? You see how that can go?" So it's not supposed to. The first thing about the elevator pitch is it's not supposed to be the whole thing. You're not supposed to be able to say something in that elevator, and by the time they get out, they're pulling out their checkbook. The only purpose of the elevator conversation is that the right people who are a good fit would want to know more. And that's the second thing I want to say about the elevator pitch, is that people think of it as a conversation opener, but it's probably more useful to think of it as a conversational closer, as an ending of the conversation. That may seem to go against what I just said, but what I mean is this. Out of the desire to please everybody, to work with everyone, to not lose any clients, people will say, what do you do? Oh, what do you do? And the person will say, oh, well, I do kind of coaching, consulting, healing work, and I make some products too. A lot of things. See what I'm saying? I've just basically said I do every possible thing. Oh, and I'm involved in community work. So nobody will be sort of turned off of like, oh, that's not me, because you've covered all the ground. But they're also not going to lean in and really jump on it. So, and this happens all the time in the healing arts. They say, oh, I help people with all these symptoms. And then there's like 3 columns with 20 symptoms each, And it's every symptom known to man. So, oh, you help everybody with everything. That is overwhelming in its own way. So we want it to be a conversation ender. And the way it's a conversation ender is you start with a deal breaker. And I've done other videos on this. So it's much more powerful in the elevator to say, yeah, I work with, so what do you do? And then you say something so specific. I work with single dads who've, just come out of a really painful divorce. I help them rebuild their life. That will end the conversation with just about everybody. Because either they're not that dad or they don't know that dad. And that's like, oh, wow, cool. That's really interesting. It's over. There's nothing more to say. Maybe they'd remember you. Maybe they'd be interested in taking your card for a friend. But chances are they're not that person. Chances are very few people you would get in an elevator with are your people. And so instead of, oh, well, I do this. Oh, that sounds interesting. Let's exchange cards. And maybe, and then you add them on Facebook and you shoot them a message every once in a while and try to build a relationship with this person where there's no fit because you opened the conversation. No. Try to close the conversation. And the way you close the conversation is naming and nailing that niche by being extremely specific about what you do, for whom you do it, where, when you do it, why you do it, how you do it, all of that as clear as possible, so that your ideal client would say, oh my God, that's me. But much more importantly, everybody else would stop talking to you, would say, wow, cool, that's really interesting. And then they get off to the next floor, you never see them again. Great, that's good. So with the elevator pitch, consider that it's not supposed to be the whole thing. It's just supposed to get the interest of your right people, and it's supposed to be the end of the conversation for everybody else. Hopefully that's helpful. Now, for those of you working on crafting your elevator pitch, there is an ebook I've got called Crystal Clear. You can find it on my website, marketingforhippies.com, and it's got a bunch of stuff. And by the way, you can get 10% off any of my ebooks just by joining my email list at the website. But that ebook gives you a 5-step process on how to exactly to articulate what you do in a way that isn't a kind of zombie, eyes roll in the back of the head, repeat this minute-long statement that you've memorized, but how to articulate what you do in a real human conversation that does what I've talked about in this video. So feel free to go check that out. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Thanks so much.